Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome back after the break. Our guest is now in the studio. So just before the break, we were talking about Graham Short, who's known as the world's smallest engraver. He has joined us in the studio, so let's welcome him. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Good morning, Suki. Good morning, Shindapal. And thank you for inviting me along. I'm really excited.
What a pleasure to have you with us today.
Yes.
Let me just tell my viewers, दर्शकों प्यारे दर्शकों ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਖਾਸ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਨੂੰ ਉਡੀਕ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਅੱਜ ਆ ਗਏ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਕਲਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਸਲੀ ਕਲਾ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਅਸਲੀ ਆਰਟ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹਦੀ ਕੀਮਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੀ ਕੀ ਵਕਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਲੋਕ ਉਹ ਕਲਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖੁੱਭ ਕੇ ਔਰ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਹੈਰਾਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਸਵਾਲ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਉਹ ਸੁਖੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਚ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਗ੍ਰਹਿਮ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੋਲ ਸਕਦਾ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੱਸੀ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਸੁਖੀ you fire the first question.
Yes. I want to firstly ask just a little bit of a history about yourself really. How did you become the world's smallest engraver?
Oh,
how does someone
I started work when I was 15. I didn't left school without any qualifications and went straight into a printing place where they did engraving.
Right.
And this was engraving on steel dies and copper plates for the printing trade.
Right.
Letterheads, business cards, things like that. And somebody gave me a nail about 40 years ago and it was handmade, about 5 inches long, half an inch across on the head.
Right.
And somebody had engraved, when I looked at it, the Lord's Prayer. And I thought, I'll try and do that. But I wanted to do it smaller, so I did it on a pin, which was 50 times smaller.
Wow.
And that was finished in 2010. On and off, I was working on it. So that's when I started to do miniature engraving then.
Wow, I think you answered my first question. Who inspired you? What inspired you? ਔਰ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕੋ ਇਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਣ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਆ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਚੇਤਨਾ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਮੇਖ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਸੀਗੀ 4 ਇੰਚ ਲੰਮੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਜਿਹਦਾ ਹੈਡ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਨੇਲ ਦਾ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਮੇਖ ਦਾ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਮੀਨਾਕਾਰੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਗ੍ਰਹਿਮ ਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਣ ਲੱਗੀ ਵਾਓ so when you start working on it how long did it take to finish that off?
Oh, it was a 40-year project on and off.
Wow.
Every job I do takes 3 or 4 months. And I'll explain how I work. I work from midnight to 5 a.m. And that's purely to avoid any vibration from passing traffic. I work through a microscope, medical microscope, really powerful. And I loop a leather strap around my elbow and the other end goes around a big press and I pull as hard as I can and it keeps my hand absolutely still. And using very fine needles. I also wear a stethoscope which I push into my shirt, sellotape to my chest.
Wow.
And I take tablets in the night. I take potassium, magnesium and beta blockers. And I confess I eat them like sweets.
Yes.
And I can lower my heart rate to 20 beats a minute.
Ooh.
And then I engrave between heartbeats when I'm not moving. But every 9 months or so, I have a course of Botox injections into my eyelids. And it keeps everything solid, no distraction, and that's how I work. I know it's strange.
It is strange. It is not for artists who can be that precise, silent. It's like doing meditation.
It's just unbelievable. I didn't know how much.
Yeah, I've got used to it now. It's normal for me.
I think we just saw an image on the screen where it's got a picture engraved on it, but obviously with being on the TV screen, it looks a lot bigger. But because I've been told that you actually engraved the Sikh emblem on a pin as well.
Yes. That's one I've done for Easter this year. That's Christ on the cross. Now this is the Kanda. And I've engraved that. That's the smallest piece of art in the world. And I've engraved it on the point of a needle.
Wow.
And you know what, I was on your show probably 18 months ago now, and once somebody had seen that, they sent a film crew over from America. They were with me for 3 days, and I was featured in a Sikh film festival in Hollywood, following being on your show, so you've got a good reach.
Fantastic.
Coming back to your early days, Graham, I know my experience shows a lot of things coming from our family. Was there anybody in the family who has this?
Oh, goodness. People ask me this. There was an ancestor who was a famous engraver.
Wow.
Over 150 years ago. But I can't say he inspired me because my mother told me about him only 10 years ago, so I didn't know.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So amazing.
That's a very amazing thing. Tell us about your youth days. What was you like, and what was your other interests were?
I was hopeless. I didn't realise what I was doing when I was younger, and I remember I was about 8 or 9, and I lived with my parents just down the road from an abattoir. And I used to stand at the gate waving at the lorries when the sheep and the cattle came past, and I loved it. And my father said to me one day, he said, "What do you want to do when you're older?" I said, "I want to work at the abattoir." I had no idea. I said, "I love animals." I had no idea what went on.
Wow.
As I say, I left school at 15, and my first job was actually when I went into the printing works to learn engraving. My first job in the morning was to crawl under the benches and empty the mouse traps. And even today, I'm absolutely terrified of mice. But I used to drop them into a dustbin, and the boss would come in and he'd lift the lid and check, and he'd count them, about 8 or 9.
Wow.
And after 2 days of this, I went home and said to my mother, "I don't want to be an engraver anymore." She said, "Well, why ever not? I thought you enjoyed it." And I said, I said, "I don't think I'm cut out to work with animals." and then she gave me the best advice she's ever given me in my life.
Wow.
She said, "Why don't you put the food on the spike, but don't pull the spring back, then in the night the mice will come and they'll eat the food and run off." And I never had to empty another trap again.
We were talking about International Women's Day.
Yeah.
This is how we can bring mothers into how they can inspire you.
Yeah.
So
my mother was a strong lady. She lived to be 100 years and 1 month.
Wow.
And she looked after herself, did all her own cooking, gardening, cleaning, decorating, up to the age of 100. In fact, she lived on her own. I had to bring away the step ladders one day when she was 99. She said she wanted to emulsion the ceiling. I thought, I can't let her climb up there.
Wow.
Tell us about your friends. What was their reaction when they seen any cause, special art in yourself?
Yeah, people, they can't believe it. I tried to engrave on, I just do miniature engraving. I tried to engrave on things that everybody will understand how difficult it must be to do it.
Yeah.
And I've engraved the words, "Nothing is impossible," and that's along the sharp edge of a razor blade. So, you know, it's really, I always tell people the thickness of a hair is measured at 100 microns, and some of the lettering I do is only 5 microns high, and that's the size of a red human blood cell. So it really is small.
So do you have any exhibitions to display your artwork? Because I'm sort of intrigued, if people are walking around looking at your art, they'd have to walk around with magnifying glasses to see it.
No, you can't give somebody something they can't see. It comes in a display case with a microscope fitted and a lighting system.
Yeah. So moving on to the big project that happened in the papers with the £5 note, where did this idea come from? Because you etched on 4 £5 notes the portrait of Jane Austen. What made you want to do this?
Well, it was the 13th of September. The Bank of England brought out the new £5 notes, and I noticed there was a transparent section on it.
Yeah.
And it's just to the right of Big Ben.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll try and engrave on that.
Wow.
Knowing that it was Jane Austen's 200th anniversary this year since her death, I thought there might be some publicity around that, so I thought I'll go in with it. And also people were criticising the Bank of England at the time, saying there weren't enough women shown on pound notes, so I thought I'd put a woman on.
Exactly. If you look at all the notes, we never look at them anyway.
That's right.
There's
exactly.
no many women on that, actually. Despite their huge contribution in the country or all the world. When you chose this particular lady, was there any reason behind it?
Only because this year is actually a 200th anniversary.
I see.
And there's lots of events on around the country this year, and it would help me promotion-wise.
Yeah.
But I worked with THH Gallery. Now, this is a gallery in Scotland, and it's Scotland's most prestigious gallery, and they've helped me to do this. And they do a lot of work for charity, and this is what attracted me to it, because my work, I'm fortunate that the work sells for a lot of money, and it's generally out of reach to the ordinary man in the street. So what I wanted to do was engrave on the £5 notes one and spend one in each country: England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. But what I didn't want to go to, say, Harrods or an expensive restaurant.
Yeah.
I wanted somebody who might need the money to find it. So I went to transport cafes around the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I went to Blackwood, which was actually a town in Wales where my mother was born over 100 years ago.
Wow.
And I bought a sausage and egg sandwich in a cafe there. And
Yes.
that note turned up about 6 miles away.
Ah.
An old lady found it and she got in touch with us and she said, I'm keeping a box for my granddaughter. And she said, in it, I'm putting lots of advice and letters to help the girl through her life. And she said, I'm going to put the £5 note in as well.
That's
So the girl will
lovely.
have it later on.
That might be
is
worth a
lovely.
million.
Oh, I don't
in
know.
the years to
Yeah.
come.
Then I took a flight from Birmingham to Belfast.
Belfast, yeah.
And then I hired a car at the airport and drove through Northern Ireland. Never been before.
Yeah.
Went to a town called Enniskillen. And I went
Wow.
into a bar and I bought a glass of Guinness, which is their traditional drink. Absolutely awful it is. I didn't like it at all. Now that note has just turned up recently. A lady found it and she said, at my age, she said, it won't do me any good selling it. And she sent it back to us. And she said, I want it to be benefit children. She said, if
so
you can put it
lovely.
into an auction for a children's charity.
Oh.
So
so
children in need at the end of the year are going to deal with that.
I
That is
can't
so
believe it. I
lovely.
can't think myself how people generous can be.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. The one in Scotland, I spent that in a homemade bread shop, and I bought a small pie, and a girl found it. A young girl. She's an art student, and she had it in a Christmas card that a relative had given her.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
she didn't.
wow.
The relative didn't know. So, and she doesn't want to sell it. She wants to frame it and hang it on the wall.
I love the stories behind each one, like
Yeah.
tracking down where they've ended up. It's
Nice
fantastic.
people have found them, which is good.
Yeah.
The one I spent in Melton Mowbray in Leicestershire, I bought a pork pie from the Melton Mowbray shop. That hasn't been found. And I'm surprised at that because their local press really advertised it well. It was in the news all the time, and it hasn't turned up.
I love it.
And it'd be interesting to see how far they
Well,
travel.
It is. It's a bit like Willy Wonka's chocolate
Yeah.
factory and how he hid those
Yeah.
the golden ticket into the chocolate bars. I think it's absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Is there something that you thought about quite, for quite a while? This is what I want to do.
No, I just
Just
woke up one day and I thought, wouldn't that be a good idea? Isn't it?
It's extremely interesting. I think that £5 note took you to different areas.
Areas.
What took you to Melton Mowbray in Leicestershire?
Just somewhere in England, so I thought I'd
I
go
see.
and buy a pork pie. Melton Mowbray pies are famous the world over. So.
Why didn't you come to Stoke-on-Trent?
I was going to say, have you got a £5 note I could borrow? Do you get that? Do people come up to you and say, right, could you just, here's a £5 note, could you do it
All the
All the
time.
time.
Yes.
ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਖਾਸ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਦੱਸੀ ਆ ਗ੍ਰਹਿਮ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ 5 ਪਾਉਂਡ ਦਾ ਨੋਟ ਹੈ ਸਿਰਫ 4 ਬਣੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ
that's it,
ਹੋਰ
yes.
ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਯੂਨੀਕਨੈਸ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵਿਲੱਖਣਤਾ ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੀਮਤ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਧੇਗੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਸੁੱਕੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ
Yeah.
ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੀਮਤ ਘਟ ਜਾਂਦੀ
Yeah,
ਹੈ ਹੈਨਾ
definitely.
ਜਦੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੋ
The more
ਜਾਂਦੀ
you
ਹੈ
make, the less they become in value.
That's right, yeah. So
Yeah.
they are like a unique. All of, after probably 50 years,
Yeah.
nobody will have them.
Have them. And I think, like I said, the story behind each one, following where it's ended up, each one has had this fantastic story behind it. Like that grandma that's kept it in a little box for her
Oh, wow.
grandchild, later on in years
It's
to come,
nice.
and they explain that story.
And how long did it take to engrave
Yeah.
one?
About 2.5 weeks each one.
Right.
But it's easier than the work I normally do. It's larger. It's just over 1/4 of an inch high. You can easily see it without a magnifying glass.
Okay. If we look at that image back on the screen, can you explain what is the word? Because we haven't seen it. We will probably never see the
Yeah,
note.
we won't see
What is the writing? What does it say around the
I put
engraved?
different quotes around
Oh, really?
from her books.
Okay, okay. Okay, this is I heard.
And this is
I-
the one that hasn't turned up.
Oh, right.
I hope I never ridicule what is wise or good. And this is the one spent in Leicestershire.
Wow.
I don't know
Can
where
you-
that is now.
Can you remember the first 3 quotes?
Oh, don't ask me
No.
that.
sorry. No,
No.
actually, we'll have to read Jan
Yeah.
Austen's books, I think. She was a tremendous lady. She's written so
Yeah.
many books. And I've just recently read the news and that she was... you weren't close to literature at all, were you?
Not really, no.
Okay,
no.
okay. Because there was lately a news came out that she gone slightly blind in her last age.
Yeah, I read she only lived to the age of 41. She
That's
died
right.
early.
Yeah.
Before I did these notes, I contacted the Bank of England and told them what I was going to do.
Okay.
And the reply straight away was, it's illegal to deface a note. It's a 1928 Bank Act.
Really?
Okay.
And I said, well, what happens if I do go ahead with it? And they said, oh, we won't pursue it. And then he said, you've chosen exactly the right time to do this, because at the moment we're getting a lot of publicity over the animal products, the
Yes,
fats that are in the
yes,
notes.
yeah.
He said, you'll take a lot of heat off us. So he was almost encouraging me to go ahead.
Yeah.
Probably first at the very first stage, they couldn't understand the logic behind it. What are you
Yeah.
trying to do? It was a very
Yeah.
strong message.
Yeah.
And I think this is an incredible
It's fantastic.
incident in British history, I would say, especially in the field of art.
It's brilliant.
And from now on, in these days, are you trying to teach other people
this,
how
yeah.
to do it?
No, it's
It's something that you've been gifted with,
yeah,
I think,
I work
aren't you?
in the jewellery quarter not far from the School of Jewellery, and I have a couple of young boys come round. They're interested in what I do.
Yeah.
And I've given them some tools and shown them how to do it, and they've come back and said, we're not interested. I think if they can't do it straight away, they don't want to know.
Yeah.
But I've been engraving now for nearly 60 years,
Fantastic.
so it takes a while.
What I wanted to ask you, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit. So this year is very special for Sikhs. It's the 350th anniversary of our 10th Guru Gobind Singh Ji.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd be able to do something special for him? I know, obviously, like I said, I've just asked you on the spot, but potentially doing something similar to the Kunda?
Yes, I'll have a go, and I'll send it to you. I'll
fantastic.
take photos. I'll put a digital camera on my microscope, and I'll take pictures.
Oh,
I'll send it
brilliant.
to you. I'll do something.
That'd be so
I think that's the
brilliant.
beauty of two artists. They've never
said-
say no.
I should enjoy doing that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
When you said the youngsters came to your shop, I thought people were like asking you, begging you to come to their workshops and talk about how people can learn these skills. Do you think the new generation is going away from traditional values?
I think so. I saw one of the boys who came to my workshop a couple of months later,
Yeah.
and I said, how are you getting on with the tools? So I gave him some pins to engrave on. And so he said, and he was practicing to be a gun engraver, and he
Wow.
used to bring samples of his work, absolutely beautiful, really clever stuff, only a young boy. And he said, I've given up learning to be a gun engraver. He said, I've taken up a new course. I want to do media studies. And I said, that's okay. He said, yes, I've got an ambition. I want to be on the show of the X Factor show. And I thought, what a waste. This boy's so talented.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it's the generation
The
that...
generation.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, if I said to my parents that I wanted to, have a career in art, they'd look at
Engraving.
me like, no, this is not what you're going to do. You should pick
I
something
understand
else,
that.
because they don't see that as a
I
possible
understand
career.
fully.
But you've mentioned, because you didn't go to school, you really didn't sort of get any qualifications, did you? However, you've still, you've got this craft that you've
Yeah.
kind of learnt over time.
I'm lucky, I think.
Would you encourage children or parents that are watching to, if their children want to do art or if it's something that they are good at, should they help to pursue that?
I think so. Parents should just encourage anyway, I think, whatever the children want to go into. You've got to be happy in what you're doing, haven't you, whatever it
Yeah.
is. And if that's the route the children want to go, I think they should get all the encouragement from the parents.
I think it's brilliant.
And what was the reaction from all these arts councils? They trying to promote art. Did they give you any support?
No, I give lots of talks around the country, and I show samples of my work.
Yep.
And a lot of art councils ask me to go and explain how I do it. And I'm invited to lots of art festivals
Are
as
you?
well, which I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
I tell them about my life and all the people I've met and the work I've done, and it's entertaining more than anything.
What's next for you? What would you like to do? What more?
What's your vision?
Yeah.
Oh,
I know you want to carry on
I've
engraving.
almost finished my last piece. I'm covering all religions, and
Yeah.
I'm going to have an exhibition which will be starting in Scotland, then it will go around the UK. And I want to try and pursue tolerance, really,
Wow.
and an acceptance of all religions. I'm hoping I can do that. I've got some beautiful Islamic calligraphy, some Hindu work. I've covered a lot, so that's my next project.
I think that's the beauty of this country. We have so much diverse
Yeah.
communities
Yeah,
in
of
this country, and your contribution will be
Bringing everybody
enormous in
together.
this
I
field.
hope so.
Yeah.
Did you have any interest from other countries, from abroad?
Oh, well, especially over the £5 note. I had a film crew come from Russia.
Wow.
They were interested.
Wow.
Australia, America. Been in the news in every country
Yeah.
and every national newspaper in Britain. And one day when I was in my workshop, I had Sky News in the morning,
Wow.
ITV local news at midday, and in the afternoon BBC news at 10.
Wow.
I was there's so much interest. I was shocked actually how much
I
interest
think
there
it's
was
because
in
it's
it.
so unique. You know, you've never heard of something like this before. You
Yeah.
know, it's proper miniature, tiny little art. It's clearly something that you've perfected over.
Yeah, it has
over
surprised
time.
me how interested people are in it.
Yeah, fantastic. Where's the furthest your art's taken you? Would you say? Have you travelled to different parts of the world with it?
No, I've been to California, had an exhibition there, and most of the exhibitions are in Europe, and I've been to Florence. But they do. It's a 2 or 3 day exhibition. It's just
Yeah.
about right in one city. Then I can go to others. Done lots around the UK.
Amazing story.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
I'm just thinking how art can make you so popular and rich in your thoughts. Any special arrangements for how would you prefer your art to be kept for the generations to come? For the first centuries, I would say.
Oh, I don't know. I think more than anything, I want people to look at it and be amazed. I want them to think, how can he possibly do that? And that makes me feel good, that does.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I think, Suki, I should start learning to do better engraving. I think
no, I don't want anybody else doing it. I'm the only one doing it at the moment. Don't you do it as well?
okay. So we learn so we can tell other people. I think the very strong message is given to learn tolerance.
Yes,
that's the greatest message of this time, that we are living in diverse communities, and we shall learn to respect each other's emotions and strengths. Anything you want to?
No, I just think it's fantastic. Hopefully I'll be able to come along to one of your exhibitions and,
I'll let
see
you know,
all your work.
But I should be working on a Sikh piece now, and I'll send it to you.
Okay, definitely.
I want to amaze you, so it'll be really special.
I'll make sure I'll take your details, and then you can keep me up to date with what you know, with the masterpiece that you are making.
Before we say thank you, ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਹੁਣੇ ਗ੍ਰੇਮ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੜਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਹੁੰਗਾਰਾ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਔਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਵੱਡੀਆਂ ਕੰਪਨੀਆਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਕੋਲ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਈਆਂ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਰਸ਼ੀਆ ਤੋਂ
all
over the world ਹੈ ਨਾ ਪਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਯਤਨ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਪ ਆ ਗਿਆ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
I think we are so lucky
to have
you are here with us on the Sikh channel, your local channel, and you will be most welcome every time you feel like to discuss anything. And on your other project, on your future project, any exhibition, you would like to promote that and tell people and go on and watch it yourself with your own eyes. You might not be able to touch it.
I was going to say,
it'll be so tiny.
If you're just putting Graham Short into Google, the amount of videos and images that come up, you know, it's amazing. So I do recommend you guys, if you do that today, find out more about Graham. It's fantastic.
So in the end, Graham, what would you like to say to our viewers? This is your camera, and how would you like to express your feelings at the moment
final
about
message.
as a final word?
Well, I just want to say how pleased I am to be here with Shindapal and Suki. Suki's actually inspired me to do something for the Sikh people now, and I'm going to work on that.
I'll make sure we send the cameras around as well to make sure we can film you as well. So yeah, definitely.
Excellent, good. But thank you very much.
Brilliant.
ਤੇ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੱਸ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਸਮਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਖਤਮ ਹੋਣ ਦੇ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਲਾਗੇ ਛਾਗੇ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਅਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਕਰੰਸੀ ਦੇ ਨੋਟ ਸੌਰੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੌਂਡਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਨਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਰੇਟਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਦੱਸ ਦਈਏ
ਹਾਂਜੀ,
ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਰੰਸੀ ਰੇਟਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ 1 ਪਾਉਂਡ ਦੇ ਮਿਲਣਗੇ 81 ਰੁਪਏ ਤੇ 19 ਪੈਸੇ ਤੇ US ਡਾਲਰ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰੇਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਹੈਗਾ 70 ਰੁਪਏ ਤੇ 35 ਪੈਸੇ ਤੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਾਫ ਕਰਨਾ ਉਹ ਸੀ ਯੂਰੋ ਦਾ ਰੇਟ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ 70 ਰੁਪਏ 35 ਪੈਸੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਡਾਲਰ ਦਾ ਰੇਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ 66 ਰੁਪਏ ਤੇ 77 ਪੈਸੇ ਤੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਡਾਲਰ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਭਾਅ ਹੈਗਾ ਰੁਪਏ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਹੈਗਾ 49 ਰੁਪਏ ਤੇ 48 ਪੈਸੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਰੇਟ ਘੱਟ ਤੇ ਵੱਧਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੈਂਕ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੋਈ ਫਾਈਨੈਂਸ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਆ ਜੋ ਲੈਣ ਦੇਣ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਡਬਲ ਚੈੱਕ ਕਰ ਲੈਣ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮਿੰਟ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਦਲਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਹੋਲਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਵੀ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਯੈਸ ਉਹੀ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣ ਲੱਗੀ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਯੈਸ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਸੰਗਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਆ 12 ਤਾਂ 13 ਮਾਰਚ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਲਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਉਸ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਧਰਤੀ ਅਨੰਦਪੁਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਉਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਨਾਉਣਾ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਲਾਈਵ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਤਿਆਰੀ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਈ ਟੀਮ ਸਾਡੀ ਜੀ
ਪਹੁੰਚ ਵੀ ਗਈ
ਹਾਂ ਟੀਮ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਈ ਤਿਆਰੀਆਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ
ਹਾਂਜੀ so if you would like to make any donation any seva towards these live programs you can do please contact the Sikh Channel studio on 0121 380 1050
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੱਲ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਖਾਸ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਸਿਖਾਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਅਪਣਾਉਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਰੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੁੱਖੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸਿਖਾਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਆ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਹੈ ਨਾ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਕੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਖਾਸ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਦੱਸਣਗੇ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤਜਰਬਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਗੇਮਾਂ ਜਾਂ ਖੇਡਾਂ ਤਿਆਰ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬੱਚੇ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹੋਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਵਧੀਆ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੋ ਉਹ ਕੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਣਗੇ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਇੱਕ ਖਾਸ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਮਿਸਟਰੀ ਉਹ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ ਔਰ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਸ਼ਨੀਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਜੋ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀ ਧਰਤੀ ਉੱਤੇ ਜੋ ਚੋਣਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਤੀਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਐਲਾਨ ਕਰਨ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਪੂਰੀ ਤਿਆਰੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜੋੜਾਂਗੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੀਆਂ ਜੁੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਜ਼ਬਾਤਾਂ ਦਿਲ ਦੀਆਂ ਧੜਕਣਾਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਜੁੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਦਲਾਵ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰੋ ਫਿਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਗ੍ਰੇਹਮ ਦਾ ਅਖੀਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ
ਹਾਂਜੀ thank you Graham for coming on today it's been fantastic learning more about your art and how you do all this I didn't know all the sort of the I can't get my words out now all the hard work that goes behind making each miniature portrait hopefully like we said we can follow you with this new project that we've just announced with ourselves but thank you so much for coming in it's been a pleasure meeting you
thank you
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਤੇ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕੋ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਂ ਦਾ ਨੋਟ ਮਿਲ ਗਿਆ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜੈਨ ਆਸਟਨ ਦੀ ਨਿਗਰਾਨੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਦਿਖਾਓ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੀ ਸੂਈ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਲੈਣੀ ਪੈਣੀ ਹੈ ਸਮਾਂ ਕਦੇ ਕਿਸ ਦਾ ਇੰਤਜ਼ਾਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਸੋ ਜੁੜੇ ਰਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੋਲਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀਆਂ ਚੋਣਾਂ ਦਾ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤਿਆਰੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਰੂਬਰੂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਔਰ ਜੁੜੇ ਰਹੋ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਥ ਦੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਹੀ ਯਤਨ ਕਰਦਾ ਰਹੇਗਾ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਰਹੀ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਹੋਵੇਗੀ ਕੱਲ ਸਵੇਰੇ ਫੇਰ ਐਸੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਐਸੇ ਚੈਨਲ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜੁੜੇ ਰਹੋ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੀ ਆਗਿਆ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਈ ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕ ਆ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸੁਝਾਅ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਦੇਣਗੇ ਕਿ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁਧਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਸੋ ਆਪਣਾ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਰਹੋ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਅੱਗੇ ਲਈਏ ਜੀ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਸੁਖੀ ਜੀ ਸਮਾਂ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਰੌਣਕੀ ਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਕਹਿਣ ਵਾਂਗੂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ